It's the 5th day of the month, the 6th day of the week. A very good evening to you watching UBC TV. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa. With Elizabeth Nakakoni, we come in with news tonight. Welcome aboard. This is what we have for you this evening. In our first story, President Janet Museveni has met the visiting high-level mission of the executive board members of 6 United Nations agencies who called on him last evening at State House in Entebbe. The high-level mission members are in Uganda to assess the works of the United Nations in supporting the country's development efforts with a view of helping Uganda achieve its efforts to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN resident coordinator and UNDP representative in Uganda, Ms. Rosa Malango, led the 35-member strong delegation of the executive boards of the UNDP, UNFPA, UNOPS, UNICEF, WFP, and UN Women. President Janet Museveni commended the delegation for coming to Uganda to seek for practical solutions to the challenges that are affecting Africa, and he said that it's good that they came in the field and saw for themselves. He discussed Uganda's and Africa's transformation journey, that even though this part of this world is rich, it has encountered a lot of bottlenecks such as ideological disorientation, fragmentation of markets that do not attract big investments, and hostility to the private sector by past regimes, among others. Museveni told the delegation that as the NRM government has been and continues to address most of the challenges like building power dams for electricity generation and construction of roads, the UN humanitarian agencies should direct their efforts towards what affects people most in Africa. The delegation commended the president for his great work in Uganda in particular and Africa in general, noting that he has showed great leadership skills in different sectors at national level in advancing the national development agenda. They also appreciated the government's support to the UN systems in the country and pledged to continue working with Uganda. Away from State House in Entebbe, there are close to 1.4 million refugees, mostly from South Sudan, living in Uganda. This makes Uganda the 3rd largest refugee host country in the world. This continued influx has prompted a number of partners to assist and empower these communities by creating employment opportunities and income for the refugees. We have details for this.
A number of countries around Uganda are embroiled in conflicts of some sort. This has resulted into a humanitarian crisis that has led to an influx of refugees, especially in districts along the border. Development partners, including the Pentecostal Assemblies of God, have stepped in to provide livelihood services to these refugees, now estimated at 1.4 million.
Them one hope to become a people, to live with a life of dignity. Secondly, we give them hope so that they are able to help one another and take care of themselves. And so we try to provide every other means that we can. Then the other thing we do is bring them the hope of Christianity. Gives them a way to live the way God would want them to live, despite of the circumstances they go through.
Refugee settlements like Rhino Camp, the largest in Arua district, is hosting over 1,000 refugees. Through activities like construction of permanent houses and latrines for the refugees, good water systems, and other amenities, lives have been transformed spiritually and otherwise.
They started helping these girls with pads, soap, bathing soap, even smearing oil. They were bringing these things for girls, and girls started to come. When the people begin to talk of PIT, people feel pleased.
An assistant settlement officer at the office of the Prime Minister, David Abili, appeals to development partners to work with government in ensuring better management of the refugees.
They are helping us in giving CSB for porridge for PSNs, specifically the pregnant mothers, lactating mothers, disabled persons, and people who are sick.
The Pentecostal Assemblies of God are making a positive impact among the refugees and host communities, though they are faced with some challenges.
One, we have limited resources and capacities to be able to meet the complex needs of the refugees.
Kara Ashaba for UBC News.
Now, the debate about the quality of journalism in Uganda today in comparison to that of some years back is a hot one, but which may never come to a common agreement. Perception among older generations largely claim a lack or deteriorated art and skills of executing the job amongst today's practitioners. Notwithstanding this position, our findings from both the generations now help build a better understanding into the subject, which could as well be the case in other fields. Jackson Onyango has this analysis.
Old is gold is an adage which older generations have certainly lived by to its true sense, for nothing to them today compares to the standard of the old days. Journalism in specificity isn't an exception. There is a general belief that the art today isn't close to that back in the day on concern of deteriorated standard. Surprisingly, Dr. William Tayebwa, who has practiced journalism for 2 decades and now the head of journalism school at Makerere University, doesn't share the same view. Tayebwa cites employers as being the major problem.
Yes, we train very many journalists, high quality journalists, but they are not employed by the media houses. The media houses prefer to employ, people probably with less qualifications, because the media houses, the pay is not very good, all right? So, especially in the broadcast industry. The print journalists, I think, is slightly better. But when we talk about radio stations and television stations, it's someone with a good voice and maybe a nice face to be on TV that will get a job.
The senior presidential press secretary, Don Wanyama, isn't in the category of generational practitioners. Like Tayebwa, Don Wanyama faults employers.
You're not going to do good journalism if you don't put money into it. That is very important, and the media owners must know this. It requires good training of your staff. It's just not enough to pick young graduates from journalism school and then throw them. Nowadays I see a journalist who has done 2-3 years and is called a senior journalist. I mean, these are rookies. They're just getting started in the trade.
Media, and I'm going to be extremely frank on this one, the media has been infiltrated by self-seekers who have no regard for the profession.
Yes, I don't want to take it away from them that they were doing a good job. I also think they were being presented a lot with, it was easier to tell stories at that time because there were massive things happening at that time. But now you have a country that seems to have stabilized a little. And what are the new areas of focus? Today, God forbid, but when I turn social media today, the name trending is Jack Pemba. However frivolous the discussion is, that is what people are talking about.
Onyango Jackson, UBC TV.
Thank you so much, Onyango Jackson. Now, on a sad one, Uganda is mourning the loss of former Minister of Agriculture and Cooperatives, Mzee Akbar Adoko Nechon, who died at the age of 87. He said to have breathed his last from Zambia Hospital in Kampala. Henry Okurut has this.
Can you imagine that from 1844, when they say that Islam, the advent of Islam in Uganda here, up to 1962, we had no Muslim minister in the cabinet.
He is said to be the first Muslim to serve in Uganda's post-independence cabinet, alongside the late Shabani Nkutu in the Obote I government. And together with Sheikh Obed Kamlegea and late Mufti Abdul Razak Matovu, the trio founded the National Association for the Advancement of Muslims. It would later be renamed Uganda Muslim Supreme Council by President Idi Amin in order to have a national structure similar to that of the church. Here, Sheikhs Abdul Razak Matovu, Obed Kamlegea, and Hussein Rajab Kakoza headed the religious wing, as Nechon and Shabani Nkutu led the development arm.
But when they founded this revolutionary movement of NAM, Muslims were sensitized about their right to have or to obtain jobs in every government sector.
It ought to be recalled that Nichon served as the first Minister of Information, Broadcasting and Tourism in 1962, when Uganda had just attained independence. In fact, Uganda Television UTV, the precursor to UBC, was established during his tenure. All this was a culmination of a life's journey that started way back on the 6th of August 1931, when he was born. This was a blessing to the family of Chief Jekeri Akaki and Abisagri of Akokoro in the Denlango district. He went to Ibuje Primary School, Ngora Secondary School, and King's College Budo. He joined Kerala University of India for 5 years, obtaining Masters in Economics with Political Science before serving in the Colonial Civil Service as a clerk interpreter for 1 year. He was then elected first president of Federation of Uganda Football Association in 1968 after engineering its formation from UFA. He is also said to have founded the first Uganda National Football League in 1968, following the establishment of the National Council of Sports in 1964. Adoko Lichon, who was also Member of Parliament of the Legislative Assembly for 18 years, also served as a cabinet minister for 7 years.
I think the tribute that the Ugandan people and the Ugandan political class can pay to Adoko Lichon is to practice politics of principles and ideals and be ready to stand for your ideals in spite of your personal safety or your personal material gains.
He is a holder of several honors in relation to his contributions to various aspects in Uganda, including Lifetime Achiever for Uganda, accorded to him during the 50th Independence Anniversary celebrations. He was also given a PhD by Makerere University for his contribution in academics, among others. A cousin of former President of Uganda, Dr. Milton Obote, he held leadership positions in a number of political parties, including UPC and Democratic Party.
Because when there was social injustice and political injustice during the colonial period, he joined the independence movement to demand for independence with social justice. But in the 1980s, when he realized that the then political establishment under the military commission of Muwanga was practicing political injustice and social injustice, he converted to DP to resist that social injustice within the political establishment, something that many could not believe, because Adoko Lichon, coming from Lango, and the cousin brother of Milton Obote, who was the leader of UPC, people could not believe that such a person who had worked with Obote and his cousin could now convert to DP.
Adoko Lichon is said to have died on Friday afternoon at Nsambya Hospital, where he was admitted for unspecified health complications. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Great man indeed. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Meanwhile, First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has urged Kisoro district leaders to help change their people's attitude towards technical education. She says that technical education produces job creators rather than job seekers. Mrs. Museveni says, she said this during a meeting with Kisoro district leaders while discussing the future of the proposed John Kale Institute of Science and Technology.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has visited the site where the John Kale Institute will be constructed. This follows the President's visit to the district in October 2007, when he laid the foundation stone at the proposed site. In a lengthy discussion with the First Lady, the leaders from Kisoro district agreed in principle that the John Kale Institute of Science and Technology will be skill-based, offering degrees, diplomas and certificates.
We want technical institutes to ensure that people want to go out looking for jobs, that instead they'll be the ones employing others and they employ themselves.
she implored the leaders to work together and ensure that the land where the John Kale Institute of Science and Technology is to be constructed is free of any contention. In his submission, the Member of Parliament Bufumbira East Nsababuturo thanked the NRM government for its developmental programs aimed at addressing issues affecting the district.
The other issue that I have seen is capable of bringing Bufumbira together is this issue of the Institute of Science and Technology.
The John Kale Institute of Science and Technology was a pledge made by President Museveni to the people of Kisoro district in October 2012 in commemoration of the achievements of the late John Kale Muhima's struggle for Uganda's independence. Remigius Simbonye, UBC News in Kisoro district.
Thank you so much, Remigius Mbonye. We'll take a very short break. On return, we'll have more stories. Please keep watching. Yes, welcome back from the break. News tonight. The National Identification Registration Authority has launched a system to ease interconnection of information of persons in the National Identification Register. The system, dubbed Inter-Third-Party Interface, will allow other agencies, including private sector, to access information from Neera for purposes of verification of persons' information. According to Neera, the move is in line with the Registration of Persons Act of 2015 that provides for the access of use of the information contained in the National Identification Register. We have the details.
In March 2015, President Yoweri Museveni put a pen on the Registration of Persons Act that gave birth to National Identification Registration Authority as a body responsible for registration of all persons in Uganda. After a successful rollout of registering persons for national identification, Neera has moved a step to introduce a system where several entities can acquire information of persons contained in the National Register.
The third-party interface has been ready since November 2017. So for any entity that wants to connect to us through the interface, they are required to use the credentials and network security settings that would be availed by Neera.
Gilbert Kadilo, the spokesperson Neera, says the move is to speed up services in facilitating social, political and economic transformation of the country.
Because of that critical function of the database, there was a need for us to be able to interface the National Identification Register with the systems of other agencies and entities for them to be able to access this information.
Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Public Service, Ministry of Information and Electoral Commission are some of the beneficiaries of the upcoming inter-third-party interface. However, the question of security of persons' information in terms of cybercrime control, Neera believes the process of the inter-third-party interface is regulated and in control.
But also the access is regulated as per the levels of information that are required by that entity. So some entities will be interested in fingerprint information. They will be granted that and only that and no other information.
The Minister for Internal Affairs, General Jeje Odong, welcomed the move and reveals that the procedure of the inter-third-party interface is strict and security-based that cannot easily interfered with.
We will have agreed with you on which fields of that information you can access. Even if you tried to access any other, you do not. So if an entity of a security nature requires, they, with us, establish a protocol of access. Then they access that particular field of information they require.
The National Identification Register secured information of 6,104,273 persons below the age of 16 years and 17,054,870 above the age of 16 years. The total number of national identity cards printed out so far is 17,100,000. 189,511, whereas 14,473,324 have been issued out. Daniel Mugoya reporting for UBC News.
Western Uganda is the country's food basket, with almost all staple food crops and livestock coming from that side. But on the other hand, children in the region are malnourished. This is as a result of selling all quality products and feed the families on the leftovers. Speaking at a nutrition training workshop by Kabarole Research and Resource Center held at Kibito in Bunyangabu district, community leaders, teachers and politicians were asked to ensure this situation is reversed.
This district of Bunyangabu falls under Toro region. And Toro region, which has one of the highest agricultural production per capita, has also the highest level of malnutrition in the country. Whereas there is high production per capita, stunting amongst children in Toro region is at 42%, which is really a paradox.
People get a lot of food and then they are money-minded. They don't mind about their health and their children's health. What is important is to sensitize them that the food that you are having, you have to utilize it in such a way. You guide them, say, use this one, eat this in this quantity, and the rest take in the market, but eat the best of your products, not taking all products in the market. Then you live with the rubbish and dust that you feed on. You can't get good nutrition.
The families. Men are no longer caring for their families. They are neglecting their responsibilities. That's why you find all the times in markets, you find women, everywhere you find women. That's why the women, the young ones are not catered well. So for this, we shall sensitize these people down there to tell them what they are supposed to do, at least to prevent this malnutrition within our district.
People actually, whatever they grow, they sell, and they leave nothing for consumption at home. This has seen the region almost leading in the rest of malnutrition. So, what do we need to do as technical people in the nutrition field? We need to empower, sensitize communities. We need to move away from hospital-based approaches to community-based approaches.
Yes, selling is important, but not everything. Let them remain with some good food. And we have gone to schools. We have gone to schools. Our health department, as the district health inspector together with the DIS and the DO, have gone to schools to inspect. Have children packed food. So we are teaching them not to kill the dodo, not to kill the other vegetables, which are important for the children's health and the people's health, the adults' health as well.
It's a food basket. We see lorries ferrying matoke, ferrying a lot of vegetables and fruits, which means that people actually, whatever they grow, they sell, and they leave nothing for consumption at home. The nation like Uganda loses out if those children grow. Because nutrition or malnutrition will not only affect the physique, but also affects the mental state, the ability, the IQ of those children. So it impacts later on the economy of the nation, because those people will never be productive like their counterparts who never suffered from malnutrition.
Once you accumulate a lot of cholesterol in your body, that artery is blocked and you will get heart failure. All these things we didn't know. Then they're talking about alcohols and so on. The alcohols we are taking today, you find that in the local breweries, when you hear Kasese, Neera, and so on. This one reminds me of organic chemistry when we talk about alcohol.
Government will continue investing in education to transform the nation, as said by Rosemary Seninde, State Minister for Primary Education. Seninde made the remarks while commissioning the public primary schools constructed under the Uganda Teacher and School Effectiveness Project in the western region of Uganda. The $33 million nationwide project has been financed by the Global Partnership for Education through the World Bank to the Ministry of Education and Sport.
Government has embarked on a commissioning and handing over exercise of primary schools that were constructed under the Uganda Teacher and School Effectiveness Project. On the 2nd of May, the First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, kick-started the exercise at Birere Mixed Primary School in Isinjiro District.
Government ekabeine kukora kawefuza aho naho kwombeka classrooms to be able to accommodate the millions of children. Our primary bobonka abana overnight bakarga million even next treka baza million ina baza million itano baza million munana hata kugambira primary young.
The commissioning of the other schools in Uganda and Isinjiro district were officiated by the State Minister for Primary Education, Rosemary Nansubuga Seninde. In total, 19 schools were commissioned in the western region of the country.
We still have a long way to go as government to keep on reminding the people, sensitizing them, mobilizing them to love and appreciate and cherish education. Because even if we improve on the infrastructure and the teachers and the parents are not doing their job, then we may not achieve much.
UTSEP signed a grant with the Ministry of Education with an aim of supporting government in improving teacher and school effectiveness in the public primary schools. The initiative is hailed as a game changer in enhancing primary school education. However, Kukunda Fenhas, the headmaster at Kijongo Primary School, is urging government to deploy more teachers in the schools.
There is a trouble. We need some more teachers. We shall need more teachers because the enrollment is increasing. And the teacher people ratio is very low as today because we have one teacher for 53 people.
Next week, the First Lady and stakeholders in the education sector will be in the northern region for the second phase of commissioning more UTSEP schools. Charlotte Amuge for UBC News.
Parents this Saturday turned up at Mengo Senior School for a Parents-Teachers Association meeting where Enoch Tumwesige Apuli, a police liaisons officer, was the keynote speaker. He advised men to get partners that are hardworking and ready to raise disciplined children.
Couples have been advised to avoid cohabiting. A police officer in Kampala, Enoch Tumwesige Apuli, was addressing parents of Mengo Senior School.
30% are single or not married. 60% cohabiting or separated. So we are seeing many of our parents are not married. And many of them, they presume to be married, yet they are not married. False presumption of marriage is criminal. You have been with a man for 20 years, you have produced 5 children, the man has never come to your place, not even a kuchihala, not even a dowry, you are there producing for what?
Tumwesige Apuli advised parents to let their children know their contact telephone numbers in case of any problem like kidnap.
Most of you, 90% wolokoso. Malungi naye mugakozese positively. Mugakozese for the well-being of your children. WhatsApp, whatever, have a forum. Parents, WhatsApp group, all of them. So that WhatsApp become messages so that tusome, tuige, tutegere, tumanye, tukule mubongo.
The chairperson PTA, Samuel Mukasamulindwa, asked parents to be mindful of HIV and abortions, which are on the rise among the adolescents.
Increased HIV, AIDS and abortions among the age bracket of our children. Bannange bikwasennaku akawuka kabayita siriimu ako n'obulwadde bwegiriisiza mu myaka gy'abaana baffe abali mu secondary.
The acting head teacher, Mary Kaliango, outlined some of the developments at the school in the past year.
Improving further the general ambience of the school, starting on the construction of the school chapel, mainly on a self-help basis, starting a laboratory and library block, a 4-level building, 4 laboratories for lower school, middle school, and the upper school. These are our objectives.
Mengo students' community was hailed for initiating a program aimed at helping needy students. UBC News.
Yes, thank you so much for that story, and we come to that point where we'll take a very short break and return with business news. Please keep around. In business news tonight, car dealers are asking government to revise a proposed policy against importation of used cars. According to the dealers, the used car business employs hundreds of Ugandans and is a source of national revenue.
I think it's going to come. First of all, people is go to the out of jobs. Not many people. Clearing agent, driver, mechanic, security. Lot of people is going out of job and his family is going to suffer.
So since we are importing 5,000 cars, so you cannot compare with the 700 cars only.
Okay.
So that's why Uganda Revenue Authority will lose a lot of money for the taxes.
Okay.
Yes.
ejampya emirimu giba giweddewo emirimu mingi bangi baba bafiirizzemu ffe tuba tetukyaddamu kukola.
Bannayuganda emmotoka zino ze bagula ze zikola mu balimi mu batakisi na buli wamu. Muzeeyi bamuleke atule ne URA tubabuulire kyekiriwo.
Small car weights or the other small car, right now they get the 16 to 17 million. If you put the age limit there 10 years, and this is going a 45 to 50 million. And who buy this one? And we are also giving a 60 to 80% down payment. Even we give on the down payment, not possible. So ratio is going just collapse down there. Even the Uganda Revenue Authority also face the tax collection problem there.
Etuongereyo emyaka 5 ngerowooza kwejo nga bwetukolera n'enguudo.
Yegabira ba MP emmotoka yabwa milioni 10. Bannayuganda ffenna twayomba. Emilioni 10 tezigula 211. Kakati musooke mulabe ebintu gavumenti byeyogera, mulaba bannayuganda bazisobola. Mugende mu bitabo by'abasajja bano mwe batundira emmotoka. Mulabe emmotoka ki ezisinga okutunda.
This very moment we are also selling on higher purchase. You know, if people cannot afford that amount of money, so I don't think it is going to be easy for people to buy cars.
We're supposed to make the good structure for the cars which are on the road. We're supposed to make some good service for those cars so that they are not going to create more pollution. So that I'm trying.
We apologize for that, but those are the car dealers appealing to government to check the policy before implementing it. Meanwhile, government of Uganda should endeavor to insure its assets, emphasized the insurance sector players. According to Alan Mafabi, the Chief Executive Officer, Britam Insurance will shield government from losses besides enhancing penetration levels. Although government's assets are the most expensive, including buildings and vehicles for decades, none of the assets have been insured.
Of course, the number one thing that government could do in this budget is, like I said, is insurance property. That would be one major boost to the industry, major one. The second one, like I already mentioned again, is enforcing workers' compensation for the workers all to be insured across the country. The other one, again, I already touched on it, is marine. And we are asking the Minister of Finance to issue an instrument to ensure that all imports in the country is C&F, there is no CIF. The I is insured locally. Those three things alone will turn around this industry, the penetration we're talking. We've been singing about for years. Okay, so that's our appeal, and we're hoping by the time the budget is read, all these things will be in place. Hopefully.
Government is a major player, and when they take up insurance for all the assets in this country, and also providing insurance for civil servants, definitely it will have a major impact on the gross written premium in this industry. That will definitely be a major impact, no question about it.
Welcome to International News Tonight. South Sudan's ruling party is holding talks in Juba with an aim of reuniting government. However, the meeting is taking place without key factions, something considered critical to moving the country forward. But observers say this will be difficult without the participation of the stakeholders.
The Sudan People's Liberation Movement, SPLM, is currently split into three factions. Those under President Salva Kiir, the SPLM in opposition under the first Vice President Taban Dengai, and the group of SPLM former detainees who are in South Sudan. These talks are an attempt to bring all sides together.
The SPLM does not have a culture of writing off its discontented members. It always strives to find a way to address their grievances and to bring them back into the fold.
However, two other factions are not part of the meeting. Those loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar and another faction known as former detainees who are residing outside South Sudan, including the country's Foreign Affairs Minister. Deng Alor left Juba early this year, saying he was concerned for his safety following a falling out with the government over the peace process. Other African countries are also attending to support this reunification, including Egypt's Foreign Affairs Minister and the Ugandan President, who urge more support from the international community.
All those who are discussing the issue of South Sudan should not make a mistake of pushing South Sudan to have a vacuum.
South Sudan's civil war began in 2013 following disagreements within the country's ruling party.
U.S. President Donald Trump will host South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in for talks at the White House on the 22nd of May as anticipation builds for the much-awaited meetings with Kim Jong-un, leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
The White House says the two leaders will discuss Trump's planned meeting with DPRK leader Kim Jong-un. It added Trump will continue to stay in close coordination with Moon on developments on the Korean Peninsula. This follows the historic Inter-Korean summit last month. South Korea's Moon and the DPRK's Kim have agreed to pursue the complete removal of nuclear weapons from the Korean Peninsula and a permanent peace between the two sides. The DPRK has also offered the complete closure of its nuclear test site this month.
In the world of sport, KCCA Football Club fell prey against Botswana's Town Rollers FC in the CAF Champions League at Gaborone Stadium after short stopper Tom Ikara failed to control a Lamponye Sherelto 35th minute strike at the back of the net in the opening fixture of the group stages. KCCA FC created chances through strikers Jackson Nunde, Derrick Nsimambi and midfielder Alan Okello, but wasn't good enough for the visitors to at least clinch a point. KCCA is grouped alongside El Ahly and Esperance and will host the Tunisian side on the 15th of May this year at the Mandela National Stadium in Nambole. Paul Musamali, Timothy Awany, Mustafa Chiza and Philberto Benchan, among others, are on the KCC squad. The Uganda Premier League resumed with some clubs fighting relegation while others struggle to lie on the top of the league table. In the day's fixture, Mbarara City and Proline FC game ended into a 1-0 draw. URAFC shared ties with Embattled Express FC with a 1-1. UPDF hammered SC Villa 1-0, while Kirinya Jinja SS thumped Masavu FC 1-0. Table leaders Vipers FC have 58 points, SC Villa in the second with 53. Third placed KCCA FC has 51, while Ondupraka lies fourth with 45 points. Meanwhile, Proline FC, UPDF FC and Masavu FC lay bottom on the league table, are likely to be relegated to the FUFA Big League. Bright Stars Nelson Senkatuka leads the scoring line with 13 alongside Vipers Mzaidan Serunkuma, while Shaban Mohammed and Milton Karisa square ties on 12 goals, among others. Yes, that is all we had time for this evening. Thank you so much for watching. Michael Jordan Lukomwa is my name, with Elizabeth Nakakoni. We'll catch you in our second edition of News Tonight at 10 p.m. Please keep watching our next program. Bye-bye for now.